I'm Lance Hayes with Sports Social Live, and the Texans grit out a hard dub against the Colts. But at what cost? It seems as if we lost Stefon Diggs, and the offensive line did not play well. They pretty much sucked. But in a bold take, I'll say this: if the Texans' offensive line played average, they'd be undefeated this season. We talk about the defensive and how they balled out and a dominance for Joe Mixon in this episode of Sports Social Live. Let's get it. And there was supposed to be some theme music right there. Who cares? We're going to keep it rolling. So, looking at what is going on, the Texans win a tough, nail biting game against the Colts. And it's kind of what we always expect from the Texans. We kind of always expect the Texans to go out here and make us have to stress. And I hate that for us. I hate that for anybody who's a Texans fan. We are one of the most difficult teams to watch because we just don't get it done when we know we have the talent to get it done. So, some of the big things that I saw in this game from all over the place is just that there were improvements. So, two positives from the game was that we saw the tenacity and grit from Joe Mixon, and we knew we would get that. So, that's not a surprise. And another positive is that we saw that the offensive line at least nutted up. They got after it a little bit more than they previously had gotten after it. So shout out to the offensive line. We did get more work from the team, and I'm excited for what they how they can go and how they can trend. They still suck, quite frankly, and they're still subpar, but definitely not definitely better. They're slightly better than what happened in the previous games. So the Texans offensive line definitely needs work, and I just want to see what they're going to do with this offensive line. It's going to be tough. But looking at the game, let's just talk a little bit about how the game went for the Texans versus the Colts. So the game started off with Pierce with an excellent kick return, and I just want to stop there because he should be our starting kick return. I think that's what we're going after. Pierce had a 40-plus yard kick return this game. Amazing kick return. Showed that he can get on the horse. He still has it. I want to see him more in the offense, but hey, kick return, if it is, a kick return might just be his calling. After that, we had Dare on a third down run. They call him third and Dare, but it is what it is. And then the Texans kind of ghost, and I don't know why everybody likes him so much. Mechie had his first target of the game, the first target in a while. Mechie ended up with three receptions for 39 yards throughout the game, and that's more than likely his season high. But shout out to Mechie for coming out there and staying with the trend. We're going to need him going down the line, especially him, Hutch, and Robert Woods. So shout out to Mechie for getting in there. And then the drive stalls out per the usual with the Texans. CJ missed a pass to Diggs and a field goal. In that first drive, we came out. You saw that we still had offensive line problems. It wasn't the worst, but it definitely could have been better. What you did notice with the offensive line and the office period is that it was a little bit more upbeat. But at first, I was thinking that the offense it's scripted. It's the first series. It's always scripted. So you kind of want to look into that. Then here you go. The Colts come out and make a case for the dynamic return. They come out and do a good 40-yard return themselves. Had the commentators talking about that. And this was a more of a Eric Murray show. Eric Murray came up with a big pass breakup. Just really good play and kind of tenacity and grit and swarming that D'Amico teaches for Eric Murray. So it was a shout out to Eric Murray. He had 3 pass breakups in the first half. It was an amazing play by him. Going on, Jonathan Taylor had a 14-yard run. And then Murray with another pass breakup. And again, this is only the first series from the Colts. Murray had 2 pass breakups. And then Stingley had another pass breakup. And, the Colts ended that drive with a field goal. And it was just a solid play, defensive play during that series by the defense. And the defensive line is just hawks. They're ball hawks. They're swarming, whatever you want to call it. I don't know what animal swarms. I guess bees. They are getting to the ball, and I love to see that from the defense, and especially from players like Fatukasi and Tim Settle. And I'll talk about Tim Settle a lot because I like his personality and what he does for the Texans. So shout out to Tim Settle and how he balled out. And if you watch what he's been talking about on Twitter and everything, he gets a watch every time. So it's Tim time. I'm going to start tweeting that Tim time. Everybody out here on the web, on Twitter, on X, start tweeting Tim time when Tim Settle gets in a game. Let's make it a thing. And let's get him some money, some sponsors or whatever. So in the next series, Stroud comes off. Stroud off the Schultz on a 3rd and 2. He ran it. Then Townsend had a terrible punt. It was just a stalling drive. And I think the Colts kind of saw that they needed to go and attack King Green on this second series for the Texans offense. And they did. They whooped Kenyon Green. They started just getting on his head. So this is where you kind of see that in that second series from the Texans, the Colts started getting the swing. DeForest Buckner and crew started going a little bit too crazy. And then Townsend with the terrible punt. I don't know what's up with him. He looks like one of those punters that can just boot it, but he messes up often and puts us in bad positions. So that's probably a position we'll have to upgrade in the summertime or next season. But I definitely did not expect him to be as bad often. He's inconsistent to say he supposed to have a big leg. So looking at Townsend, how do y'all feel about Townsend's punting? He's putting us in some bad positions, especially and making the defense have to work. And I don't know, with all the injuries that we have, Townsend needs to punt better. So tell me how you feel about Townsend. So when the Colts get the ball, Jonathan Taylor starts off with an 18-yard run, and this is their second series for the Colts. He had an 18-yard run, then Anthony Richardson had an 11-yard run, and then Petrie had a big tackle for a loss, and he's tackling some huge players. If you just look at Richardson and Taylor, I mean, they look pretty big back there. Petrie had a big tackle for a loss, and then Eric Murray has that third pass breakup. It looked kind of lucky. The ball was thrown terribly. Anthony Richardson throws a terrible ball when he's busy and he wasn't on his bike. So Eric Murray was right in the right place, right time, third pass breakup. It was the Eric Murray show at this point. 3 pass breakups for the game. The Texans pressure, and then they cause another incomplete pass. The Texans front seven has to be a top 5 front seven in the NFL. I don't care what anybody says. If the Texans front seven is on you, they are coming. They're swarming. And to be clear, Autry is not in the best shape, and you can see that he's not in the best shape. When he gets in the mid-season form, I think this Texans front seven is going to be crazy good. I love what they're doing. I love the effort that we're getting out of these players that you never expected it. I thought inside linebacker was going to be an issue and interior D lineman was going to be an issue, but Tim Settle and Fadakasi are making me believers. I'm okay. And then Hewitt and Hanson balling out in the absence of Aziz and Toa. Hey, I love what I'm seeing from them. So let's go back to what we were discussing a little bit. So after that last stalled out play, Cade Stover stays on his feet for a big first down play. One of my keys to the success for the Texans was to get the tight end started. And on National Tight End Day, a terrible holiday. I don't know who came up with that. The Texans got the tight ends active. They altogether, I believe they had about 6 receptions. The Texans had about 6 receptions for about, let's look it up. They had 6 receptions. Let's see. Dalton Schultz had 4 receptions. Cade Stover had 2. Yep, 6 receptions for about 54 yards. So shout out to the Texans Texans tight ends. They got active and they did what they were supposed to do. They should have been doing this all game. Dalton Schultz is the finesse guy, it seems like, and Cade Stover is more of that super athlete and go-getter, and he also throws a mean block. So back to the play-by-play, Schultz with the first down right after Cade Stover, and then Stroud takes a huge shot because of Kenyon Green. This was the most unathletic play by Kenyon Green. He gets absolutely finessed, muscled, and whoop everything a defensive lineman can do for against an offensive lineman came out the bag against Green on this play by DeForest Buckner. It was finesse, it was muscle, speed, everything. So I'm happy that the Texans, if you later a little bit down later down the line, they went to work and kind of put us out of our misery with that Kenyon Green. And then this back to back, Green gets beat again by the Colts defensive line. Green just isn't good. He just isn't good right now. No knock to him. He's overdrafted, overpaid. He needs to sit on the sideline, and we had to make a move. So he gets beat again, and that's pretty bad. That's pretty much it. And then Jonathan Taylor comes out and grinds for a first down for the Colts, and then downs with a 69-yard touchdown. They did a pick play, pretty intentional, good play calling. Petrie gets knocked down, Downs is wide open. I I'm not mad at the play by the defense. It was a great play call by the Colts. It was just good play call. I'm not mad at that one, but you definitely wanted to see more from that. But in the next drive from the Texans, you have Green getting benched. When with Green getting benched, I was happy. I'm like, man, about time. It seems like D'Amico and Bobby were being extremely political and they weren't making the hard decisions. They kind of just let the decisions come to them and let the atmosphere dictate what they were going to do. And I did not like that. As a leader myself, you have to make decisions, and I've made mistakes not making actual the tough decisions, and that in itself is difficult to see what happens after you don't make that decision. It sucks. It's hard. We're all human, but D'Amico had to make a decision, and they should have done it earlier, not started with Kenyon Green, but they made a decision and they benched him. It seems like we're going in the right direction. So the Colts sniff out a sideways play from Bobby Slowick. Bobby tries to get in a quick game, but he goes sideways. I don't understand his propensity to go left and right and not go north and south. Then Woods comes out with a big catch for a first down. Big check down to Mixon. He goes, and then Mixon has a huge rumbling, tumbling touchdown run, powering into the box. That was a solid run from Joe Mixon, and his dominance just continued throughout the game. Then Patterson actually checks in for Kenyon Green, and then on that play, you see Patterson down for the count, and he is out for the rest of the game, making Bobby Slowick have to go back to Kenyon Green, who is trash. He's just trash right now. Hopefully, he prays it away. It's kind of embarrassing, but he's playing embarrassing in front of his family. His family is all in the stadium. Dude, you got to do better. That has to be embarrassing to play that terrible in front of your family. So I hope whatever he has to do, get some type of mental help. Hey, whatever you need to do, Kenyon Green, fix it. I don't think you need to fix it while you're with the Texans, but try to fix it. Then we had a couple of plays. It just went into a punt fest. Will Anderson, who was balling out, had a tackle for the loss on the next play. Then Will Anderson Jr. had a sack and got him to 7.5 sacks on the year. He's tied for third in the NFL, which is a solid play. I think that he's going to be pushing for one of the top defensive sack leaders this year and possibly going up for a defensive player of the year. It'll be tough, but he's in good company. And then you got Green comes back out there. He allows the pressure the first play back when he comes back on the field for the Texans. Then the Green gets whooped again. It's just hard not to watch Green because it's just terrible. And then a pressure from the left side and the Colts attacking Green. They just kept attacking him 3 plays in a row to see what he's going to do. He did block decent, but hey, we went and we punted. Then the Texans got on Texans on defense were continuing to pressure, going crazy. They had good coverage, and there was continued pressure for the Texans going through. I'm going to speed up a little bit here. Then Green comes back out. The Texans do what I said they were needed to do. They got into the quick game and got it to the tight ends on this going towards the half. And the tight ends were very active at this point, kind of just blocking and setting screens and chips. It was good to see the tight ends doing what they're supposed to do on National Tight End Day, which is weak to me. So watching the tight ends for the Texans go do a little bit was great. Watching Bobby Slowick actually call a quick game and not the fancy stuff. He dumbed down the offense for his personnel. Bobby Slowick should have been doing that the whole time. If you feel like Bobby Slowick should have been doing that the whole time, go ahead and drop me a like or a chat or subscribe, because I'm going to keep on providing these facts. And then we had dangerous pass going into as we get in towards the end of the second half. Uh, uh, 3rd and 8. Stroud was sacked by DeForest Buckner, and Juice Scruggs gets beat. But when Scruggs gets beat in this play, I'm thinking a lot of times Laramie Tunsil and Juice Scruggs got beat, with Juice Scruggs getting beat to his left and then Laramie Tunsil beat to his inside. It's because they're trying to help out King and Green. They're worried about King and Green. So I think that when we see the mix, when Patterson gets in there, they know they don't have to worry about Patterson or whoever replaces Green being ash shitty. It just is what it is. The Texans know that King and Green is not that good. So they're trying to help them. They don't want to look embarrassed, but you can't do that when you have DeForest Buckner and different speed linemen coming around the edge, and Larry B. Tunsil has to focus on his outside. He actually played a pretty good game. So going into the half, there was a dangerous pass by Anthony Richardson, and Lassiter had a pass breakup. Then next play, Petrie gets a massive game-changing pick. That was the dumbest play by Shane Steichen. I don't know why Shane Steichen did that, but Shane Steichen calls a pass play to the right. It's just a slow play. I don't understand. Petrie hops it, gets the pick, and then Tank Dell. Then we get a Tank Dell touchdown to end off the half. It was a hell of a route by Tank Dell. Awesome route. I'm skipping over a little bit to kind of just blow through this. And the second half, like the first half was, I didn't really like the first half, but I was okay with what was going on because I saw that Bobby Slowick was adapting to his personnel, and that's something I talked about with the keys to victory for the Texans. So watching Bobby Slowick do that, and I called the quick game, I called the tight ends being more aggressive with the tight ends. It was something that I like to see. We know the defense was going to be what it was going to be, but I'm happy to see that Bobby Slowick dumbed down the offense for some of the dummies on the front line. And I hate to say that, but they look terrible at times. So coming into the second half, Jonathan Taylor got moving, and both running backs in this game balled out. Jonathan Taylor broke the century mark, and Joe Mixon broke the century mark actually, but he had to get but he had a tackles for the loss and kind of lost that. Ended up with 94 yards. So Jonathan Taylor had a big run to come out in the half. Anthony Richardson actually started running the option. I guess they couldn't get anything started. Shane Steichen said, "Hey, we're gonna go run the option." Then Anthony Richardson fumbles actually, and then the Colts recover. The Texans defense was on their head, and it was great to see. So the first series of the game of the second half, the Texans get the ball, and Green is pushed back for a Mixon loss of -5 yards. He starts off the half just terrible. So with Green getting pushed back, you get a third down, big catch by Hutch. He did a good job getting back to the line, and he did a great job. And then a big, huge play, Diggs with the 49-yard catch. And then right after the big play from Diggs, you have Scruggs with a bad snap and almost disaster for CJ. And you could tell that's due to them coming out to play the huddle slowly, as well as just some poor communication and cohesion on the offense, period. Like that offensive line just makes CJ have to think a little bit more than he has to. Yep. And then we get some pressure for the edge. CJ goes incomplete, and we finish it with a field goal, a Houston field goal. Uh, you know, the game goes back and forth. Jonathan Taylor starts rumbling and tumbling. We get Mechie with a big catch in the game. It was pretty cool to see that Jonathan Taylor gets in the box. Dell reception on a 4th yard. Mixon has a big fumble going into the fourth quarter. But the end of the game, you see the Texans swarm and kind of come away with the 23-20 victory. It was good to see the Texans ball out. But in this episode, that's the recap of the game. I did a consolidated recap, caught as much as I can. I have to watch this game at 2 o'clock in the morning, so bear with me. I'm watching from Japan. I'm the #1 global fan. You can like, subscribe, and share. But let's just get into a little bit. Some of the key takeaways from the game is that we're coming out of this game with big injuries. And I say a big injury because our three-headed monster is down to one. Diggs is out due to a knee injury. It looked bad. I did not like what I saw as a guy who's had five knee surgeries. I think, yeah, one, two, three, four, five knee surgeries. Yeah, it's five knee surgeries. That's terrible. I had him watching him do that to his knee was a reminiscent of me tearing my ACL non-contact. It is what it is. I think it's a torn ACL, torn ligament in his knee, or at the best, it is a sprain, but it's still going to be 4 to 6 weeks for him to come back and be healthy. Unless they give him a camel knee or something like that, but he's not going to be back, might not be back in the Texans uniform unless he just truly wants to. But shout out to Stefon Diggs. He was balling out and having a good season, a solid season with all of the issues that the Texans offensive line provided. With Diggs being out, it leaves the question what's going to happen with the Texans going forward and who's going to be that receiver who steps up. This is a great opportunity for Tank Dell. This is a great opportunity for Xavier Hutchinson, Robert Woods, and Mechie. Everybody's idol. I don't know why people like Mechie. I keep on saying that, but it's a great time to see what happens with these receivers. His impact on offense is just tremendous, and his tenacity. Defenses have to respect Diggs. So when him not out there, can Tank Dell get open and be that bell cow for the Texas receiving core? It remains to be seen. He hasn't been having the best season. His separation results aren't that good. Will he be able to do that? It seems like he's catching his stride and being better, especially against this game against some solid DBs. But Tank Dell will have to step up against the New York Jets, as he will probably be the number one receiver going into that game. It doesn't look like Nico Collins is coming back for the Jets. He can't. He'll be back for the Detroit Lions. So we're gonna have Tank Dell, Xavier Hutchinson, Robert Woods, Mechie out there catching balls for the team. And let's get over the rumors. There will not be a Cooper Kupp sighting on the Texans. They said the Rams said they will be re-signing Cooper Kupp. So let's see what we can do with Tank Dell. It's your week, big dog. Get active. Bobby's gonna have to call some plays and get our receivers loose. So that brings me to another point here. Can Tank be a number one receiver? Drop me a note, say yay or nay, thumbs up, thumbs down. Can Tank be a number one receiver? It's going to be hard for me to see if he can or if he can't be. I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't think that Tank can be a number one receiver. I just think that he's going to be more of a kind of a 1B, but not a number 1A. Let me know how you feel about Tank. Let me know if you think it's even possible for him to be that number one receiver. Tank Dell today finished the game with 4 receptions for 35 yards, 8.8 average, and 1 touchdown. That's not a bad game. It's considering that you had a lot of mixing of the ball with tight ends, Diggs, and then you got Xavier Hutchinson, Robert Woods got active. So I like to see that Tank Dell is out there and active. So can Tank Dell be a number one receiver? Can he go out there and make the plays like we know he should be making plays? The world may never know. But in order for Tank Dell to make a play, these dudes on the screen have to ball out, and we are not getting ball out from any of these guys. I'm not gonna say we're not getting balled out. Pause. But King Green is definitely not giving us what he should be giving us. King Green is a piece that needs to go, and he has been benched. I think the Texans will start the week off making a shift, probably moving Titus Howard over to guard or bringing up Kendrick Green and making a move. If Jordan Patterson has a back concussion, he's out for 2 weeks. So there will have to be a mix up on his offensive line. You probably take care of it from the inside. You really don't have to go outside to get an O lineman. But, maybe you can get one with Jameis Winston balling out for the Browns. I don't see us being able to get Taylor from the Browns. But if he doesn't ball out, maybe the Browns are willing to will and deal, but it's probably no point to go after him because the Browns are probably going to stay in the game and just kind of keep him because with Jameis, they balled out and they beat the Ravens. So you never know what can happen with that this year. So shout out to my offensive lineman of the game would have to definitely be Laramie Tunsil, followed by I guess I'll go with Shaq Mason. Shaq Mason had a solid game. You could see him being a little bit more aggressive running down the field. He made a mistake, CJ got in his face. It was cool to see that they were had some at least life. I heard Gerard Johnson got on the offensive line. A lot of people are in their face. So offensive line has a lot of pressure on them. Larry Tunsil, you're getting paid a lot of money. He played a solid game. Can't be mad at him. Juice Scruggs definitely needs work. I want to see Blake Fisher and Kendrick Green just get out on the field. It can't hurt. It can't be worse than Kenyon Green because that's terrible. So I want to see what we can do with Blake Fisher and Kendrick Green. But nonetheless, we were able to get the yards after contact and just aggressiveness and tenacity from the one and only Joe Mixon. He was putting people in a blender, taking them to pound wrong. I'm not gonna say pound town, but he was going to town on the Colts defense. I mean, he was rumbling and tumbling. I love the patience that he uses when he goes to the zone. He makes his read, he cuts, jump cuts, and goes. Rumbling, tumbling Joe Mixon. And it looks great. He is making people pay every time he touches the ball. He dropped 2 receptions, I think, that kind of frustrated me. But other than that, Joe Mixon was a solid, dominant force for the Houston Texans. I actually thought we would get a little bit more of Damian Pierce, kind of a 1-2 hit like they have in Detroit. And I kind of want to see that a little bit more. But Joe Mixon is the workhorse for the team. Joe Mixon had another strong performance. He really truly broke over the 100 yards. It just was brought back, and he showed energy and physicality for the Texans offense. We have to feed Joe Mixon. You have to feed Joe Mixon by any means necessary, especially with the receivers out. You have to feed Joe Mixon. The That's just it. I liked what he did during the game. So Joe Mixon, let's just talk about it. He went 25 for 93 with 3.7 yards average and 1 touchdown. Buddy balled. I'm happy with what he did. Shout out to Joe Mixon and a dominant play from the guy. But we can't do any of this, any offensive talk, if we don't sit here and focus on Bobby Slowick. After the fact and after the game, I had to just a few thoughts about Bobby Slowick. One, I think he did a good job going with a quick game. I think he did good job going with the tight ends because he saw his offensive line was not doing what he needed to do. So kudos to you, Bobby Slowick. Two, Bobby Slowick, he did not look super confident on the sideline. I just didn't see fire. It seemed like he was coaching for his job, right? Um, he possibly is. So that's the second point. I just didn't get the he doesn't normally have the fire on the sideline. I'm not saying that, but you just didn't see any animation and just what it did not look like a lot of life. So he wasn't the one getting on the offensive line. It was Gerard Johnson. So I wonder what the behind the scenes dynamic is for Bobby Slowick. They definitely questioned some of his calls. He had less questionable calls. He was more consistent this game. But there's only so much you can do with an offensive lineman like Kenyon Green giving up the whole game. It's only so much you can do. So shout out to Bobby for making an improvement for the Texans offense, but we still have a ways to go. It's one of those games. It's a weird win because you can't be satisfied with just winning like this. It's not sustainable. You have to be able to go down and score, not have field goals. And it doesn't seem like the Texans can score. Any and every drive gets stalled out and just goes into a punt or a field goal for the most part. So shout out to Bobby for improving, but he has to figure out a way to just get the team over the hump. D'Amico figured out a way to do it with the defense. Bobby The extraordinary analytical guy has to figure out a way to do it on the offense. There's no knock to what he does. He just has to figure out a way to do it with his ragtag offensive line. You have the studs at the athletes. You just got to get the offensive line rolling. So let's go, Bobby. You got it. Come on, Bobby. You could do it, Bobby. So I want to see a little bit more from Bobby, to be honest with you, but I have to give the credit where credit is due. Um, Credit has to be given to your to the one and only D'Amico Ryans. And I keep on saying that. I keep on saying that, but I'm I'm gonna maintain this. D'Amico Ryans has has coached a five starterless a defense without five starters to being one of the top five defenses in the league. They are top five defense in the league. They have the pass breakups. I believe we can look up the defensive stats, but they are an amazing defense with backups essentially all across the field. So shout out to D'Amico for being a coach, a true defensive coach, defensive minded coach to get the most out of the team. If our overall defense is not a top five defense, it is definitely a top five linebacker core or a top five front seven. The stats are there. You have a top three sack person in sack. You have linebackers who are leading the league, top 15 in tackles side to side, and these are backups. So imagine a healthy Texans defense and what they can potentially do for the team. So D'Amico is coaching. He should be a defensive coach of the year for sure. So let's just put that out there. We have a guy who's out here getting the most out of all the Texans defensive players, and they're showing that they have the capability to ball against some of the better offenses in the league. The Colts are by no means a good offense. Let's be clear. But the Texans front seven shows that they can be consistent and pressure. They have the number one pressure rate or whatever. I hate that stat, but they have the number one pressure rate in the NFL at one point, and I probably still to this day. So shout out to D'Amico Ryans for getting the most out of the Houston Texans injured, battered, bruised, but they don't break defense. Bobby, you need to learn a few lessons from D'Amico. You need to listen, figure out something. Go be a offensive line whisperer and fix the offensive line. But as I close it out, and I appreciate everybody for tuning in, drop a like, subscribe, share to your friends. Let's debate about the Texans. I want to interact with everybody who watches this page. Hey, show me something. Let's debate. Tell me, teach me something because I want to learn something from you. Let's just finish up with the AFC outlook. The Texans are sitting at 6-2 for the season and taking the lead, a dominant lead over the AFC South. They should be able to keep this going for the rest of the season. But let's be clear, the Texans have a turnaround game against the Jets this Thursday. When they return, the Texans are going to play 3 games in 10 days down the stretch, and then they have to face Kansas City, the likes of Kansas City, Detroit. Yeah, the Texans, we're gonna have to work. It's not gonna be easy at all. You have Kansas, you have the Jets, Lions, Cowboys, Titans, Jags, Dolphins, Chiefs. That's a gauntlet. The Jags are gonna play. The Jags are gonna play. The Cowboys are gonna go crazy because it's gonna be built up as a battle of Texas, a Monday night football game, and you have a Sunday night football game. The Texans have we've hit the mainstream. So let's see how the Texans roll. If they can come out of this next gauntlet of games, hey, we might have something. We might have something. And we can't even let up off the gas, was a crazy thing because December 26th, December 25th, we're playing the Ravens. It's a tough schedule for the Texans, but I'm excited to see how we're able to conquer adversity. A lot of these teams haven't conquered as much adversity as the Texans. Hopefully, with the Texans going through so much adversity earlier, they're able to get some players returned and maybe get us into a game in New Orleans. Maybe. Hey, I appreciate everybody coming through. I'm Lance Hayes. This is Sports Social Live on YouTube, Sports Social TV on Instagram. Oh, excuse me, Sports Social TV on Instagram, X, and any other platform you see. Just look up Sports Social Live or Sports Social TV. You can find me. Lance Hayes, Sports Social Live. Subscribe, like, share. I'm out.